Thank you, Dr. Pramod, and thank you, NICE, Nepal Institute for International Cooperation and Engagement. Since the inception, as NICE has been, as I always said, is a nice job connecting scholars, think tanks, and the contributors like from academia, private sector, bringing them all and talking and engaging about the current challenges in terms of geopolitics, in terms of geoeconomic dimensions. And this event, Indo-Pacific Future Forum 24, has become a platform for scholars and researchers, analysts, and strategists from throughout the world. And welcome you all. And I think I don't need to go in any detail because as we are familiar in the recent time how South Asia is in the Indo-Pacific region is positioned and positioning, and things are changing. If you look at the recent changes in the Bangladesh, India go through election. This is Modi's third tenure in Sri Lanka after a big political change. The new president came up with a new aspirations, and having 2/3 majority for the first time in the election is something changing. And similarly, we have seen Maldives has gone through a sea change, and then of course, challenges are there, but they have conducted election and they have clearly sent their messages in the region. And Indo-Pacific, while India is a part of the Quad already, and on the other hand, China closely working with CPEC in Pakistan, and Pakistan's economy is in detail. It will come during the presentation, and at the same time, political instability in Pakistan, and that's where the Afghanistan is somewhere in middle of not coming out from the long conflict. These are the things. And Nepal, as it has entered to the Federal Democratic Republic, conducted second election. Two largest parties in the parliament have made alliance and then trying to perform, but still they are not taking or giving such hopes and momentum. These are the things. Generally, this is the political scenario. I'm sure you all are linking these things where the South Asia is in the Indo-Pacific, and Indo-Pacific Forum on that side. So Indo-Pacific is reshaped, renamed, rebranded kind of concept. On the other hand, as India with some global initiatives or global aspirations as the aspiring global power or the great power, installations have been already there, like hosting G20, giving some messages last year, and now we can see that International Solar Alliance and some other alliances and the Indo-Pacific region or the Indian Ocean, it has shown its presence, and the diaspora and the role of the diaspora in the coming back to the Indian economy, their contribution, all these things are there. So political economic dimensions are there, geo-economic dimensions are there. So these connections are there. So without going into any detail from my side, as Dr. Pramod have made commitment from you all. Dr. Monish is there. He will be starting and talking about how India look at the Indo-Pacific strategy, as the Kalinga Institute of Indo-Pacific Studies has been earlier. It was focused on the technological issues only. Now, in the recent time, it is rebranding way and focusing on the Indo-Pacific affairs also. So I'm very briefly talking about the panelists without going into much details, as Dr. Monish, India's Bhubaneswar, Odisha-based think tank associated with the institute KIIPS. I think he will be focusing on the general South Asia, but India specific, might be talking about the what and how in the global context, in the changed context when U.S. elections has given a new message to the global order or the global existing global order, how it will move ahead. China with its global three initiatives: one civilization, one development, and the security initiative, and all these things. And Nepal has recently have signed a framework, kind of, like with the BRI. Other countries already, those who joined and who have faced the new challenges like Sri Lanka and all these things. So can Dr. Monish, I will go with the panel in order that has been given to me. So please, Dr. Monish, take your time, and the time is 10 minutes. Then we will have some more time to have a Q&A session.
Thank you.
It seems your audio is poor. Can we recheck it?
Hope I'm audible. Oh.
Hello, Dr. Monish.
Hello. Here.
Dr. Monish Tourangbam, your
Am I audible?
audio is quite poor. You are not audible.
Am I audible now?
Now you're audible.
Yeah. Thank you. Speaking now. Hello.
Hello. Okay. Can you be in a queue that if audio problem is there, I will go with the Professor Dr. Agnieszka.
Yes, hello.
Yeah.
Am I audible? I hope you can hear me.
You are audible, you are visible. So I think as Professor Dr. Agnieszka, she is an associate professor at the Jagiellonian University of Poland, a very oldest university around the world. I don't know, in Poland, yeah, but I haven't a detailed bio. I'm not going into that detail, but she is speaking on India's role in shaping how Indo-Pacific architecture is taking shape in different sectors, and she will be giving us a European perspective, how Europe is looking on that. So, Dr. Agnieszka, the forum is yours. Let's go for the 10 minutes.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure being here as always. The nice conferences, it's very good to participate in them and share different perspectives. And I'm really happy to take part in this fantastic panel to share the European perspective on India's role in the Indo-Pacific, changing, evolving architecture. So good morning again from Warsaw, Poland on this winter day. I would focus firstly on the key assumptions of my talk. So if we take into consideration the European perspective or perception of India, we need to refer to certain analytical pillars. First, the multilateral level, like the European Union as an organization, the EU, which determines its foreign policy through a process that includes certain institutions such as European Council, European Parliament, European Commission, with its High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy. So this is like the first level, the EU. And then we have bilateral level. So bilateral relations between the European Union states and India. And of course, this is a very complex issue, so I will briefly refer to the countries that take India into consideration as their important strategic partners, and they have indeed started many different projects with India. These countries are France and Germany. So there is this specific decision-making process, a combination of collective approach and also individual strategic interests and capabilities of particular European Union members. The cooperation with India dates back to 1994. But since then, as we know, a lot has changed, and also India's role, India's position in the world has changed significantly. In 2004, the European Union recognized India's significance and started treating India as a strategic partner that shares certain values, that supports for rules-based order, global order. But then the most important era in the relations between the European Union and India came approximately 10 years ago with China introducing its Belt and Road Initiative. And at the same time with India's growing role in the region and beyond. And as a consequence, there were certain documents that introduced the EU's policies, like, for example, in November 2018, the strategy, the European Commission introduced a strategy, elements of the EU strategy on India, with the aim to reinforce the bilateral strategic partnership. So now the European Union is India's first trading partner, and India is in the EU's 9th largest trading partner. So India is recognized as a fast-growing economy, as a G20 member, a growingly important player in this international global system. And I would also emphasize the fact that there is more and more research, a decent research on South Asia in different European countries. I do research in Germany and in Poland in particular, and it has really changed in the last years because previously the focus was mostly on China. We also have research on Korea, Japan, and India and South Asia also is now covered in the research at universities. So there is more and more knowledge, good quality knowledge about the dynamics in South Asia, and in particular the role of India and how we should look at India, how we should understand India's policies and India's role in the changing world. So then we have the trade relations between the EU and India. Like last year, 2023, it reached like 124 billion euros worth in trade in goods. There are approximately 6,000 European companies in India providing approximately 2 million jobs. And one important thing, of course, which I have to emphasize, and that was also emphasized in 2021 in September, the EU strategy for cooperation in the Indo-Pacific, where India is mentioned many times, that strategic interests overlap the European and Indian strategic interest in the region, the countering of China, and its growingly assertive policies, and also Indian experts such as Happy Moon Jacob emphasized in their analysis that Beijing has gradually shifted its strategy from coexistence to active and more multidimensional containment of India in South Asia. That also has impact on India's security policies. So India tries to balance its relations with different partners. It's a member of Quad, as we know, this quadrilateral security dialogue, and European Union and its member states want to play more and more important role in India's foreign security policy. So European Union recognizes India and Japan as its first two important connectivity partners and core Indo-Pacific partners with which certain projects are developed, like maritime security, capacity building, cooperation against drug and human trafficking, illicit financial flows. There is also another project enhancing security cooperation with Asia, which covers counterterrorism, maritime security, of course. And in this partnership, there is India perceived as a significant partner, but also Singapore, Japan, Indonesia, Korea, Vietnam. These relations have significantly developed, but there is another level, which I already mentioned, which is bilateral cooperation. And here I would emphasize the role of France and Germany. India, due to its security concerns, focused on China, but also the protracted conflict with Pakistan and all these regional challenges, India is a major arms importer. If we look at the analysis of Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, we can see that India's main suppliers are Russia, still it's Russia, like 36%, and then France. France is the second one, 33%, and United States 13%. It is within the interest of European Union to strengthen this cooperation with India and enhance the European role in India's security policy, so that India becomes less and gradually less and less dependent on Russia, which is obviously perceived by European Union as a threat, as a country that attacked another independent country, Ukraine. And it is really happening. If we compare the documents of CIPRI from last years, we can see that Russia's share has shrunk from 76% as a major supplier of arms to India, from 76% in the years 2009-13, then to 58% in 2014-2018, and now it's 36%. So these interactions, in particular with France, for example, because France also has interest in the Indo-Pacific. So it has, we can say Paris has aligned its Indo-Pacific strategy with India. So it's like a bilateral interaction. So new orders are being placed with Western suppliers, like, for example, we have this cooperation like Rafale jet fighters with France, between India and France. There are joint military exercises, Air Force exercises to enhance operational compatibility, to be able to deal better with different regional and global challenges. And then another example, a very interesting, I would say, example and case study in this perception of India is Germany. Germany, which has transformed its strategy recently after Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the more careful perception of China as well. So there were many, if we look at recent few years, there were many meetings, German leadership.
You have 1 minute to wrap.
Okay, 1 minute. Sure, I will finish them. So there are many meetings, discussions, forums of interaction between Germany and India. Scholz, Chancellor Scholz, Minister Baerbock met Indian leadership many times. So there is a growing like upward trajectory in these relations. So Germany also wants to be more engaged in Indo-Pacific, which is really quite a new, an interesting phenomenon. There are India-Germany inter-governmental consultations since 2011, and Germany wants to be a player in India's defense policy, like, for example, to participate in the Project 75A, the transformation of India into global submarine building hub thanks to the potential cooperation of German defense firm ThyssenKrupp Marine Systems and Indian Mazagon shipbuilders to construct build 6 submarines. Also, Germany participated in international air exercise organized by the Indian Air Forces earlier. It was in 2024. Earlier, there were joint naval exercises conducted in 21. So it all proves that Europe perceives India as an increasingly critical partner in the Indo-Pacific, and it recognizes its central role in promoting regional stability and economic growth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor. As Agnieszka and as you put light from the European perspectives and Indo-Pacific region, how India is moving ahead and taking shape and putting steps in the region. As we see, South Asia is, as a sub-region, it's less shaped, less networked, or the institutions are weak, as we have seen case of the SAARC now. But India initiated BIMSTEC gradually, as I mentioned earlier, in the solar and other areas, it is stepping up. So we will be talking. And now I will go to the Asanga Abeyagoonasekera, who is the executive director of a very newly formed last year, I think, how South Asia Foresight. I mean, his institution itself working on the South Asia Foresight network from USA. He has been working on this area, and in fact, this is my second interaction with Asanga in the session online. We are meeting. We have been hearing his thoughts, and very promptly he's giving a picture how the network and how the Millennium Project, the institution he's linked with in working from, will be talking about the global context and the South Asian context, and how India is looking forward in a sense, like with the changing context, as slightly European perspective, where dependency on the Russia for its arms deal, and then France, and then Germany. We just heard from Dr. Agnieszka. So now it's up to you, Asanga. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Deepak. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Is it audible? Okay.
We can hear you.
So wonderful to see the panel. Actually, most of them I know. And thank you, Pramod, for this invitation. And as always, you're the only one in South Asia who could do such a large gathering of more than 150 scholars. So congratulations to NIICE. And as one of their visiting senior fellows of NIICE, I'm honored to be part of this think tank. So let me quickly sort of dive into the subject. So I will bring you sort of a perspective that I have gathered from Washington, D.C. So being here for 4 years, as well as the Indo-Pacific strategy. The recent sort of the US-China economic report was out. As you can see, the security as well as on the economic issues has been highlighted on the Commission report. So you can see the significant foreign policy blunders that was made during the Biden administration has had direct impact to US citizens who are voting, I think, for the elections, that Trump was seen as somebody who could deliver. Than Biden, as well as Biden was seen as responsible for 2 wars, directly, indirectly, as well as the exit on Afghanistan, and many other sort of concerns on the foreign policy side. So seen as a weaker leader who could not sort of deliver. This is the reason that Trump is in power, clearly, not only on the economic side, but on the foreign policy side. So as you must have heard about Sri Lanka the last 48 hours, again, Sri Lanka is in the global headlines, but it's only not for a good reason, but for something not so positive. The Speaker of the House have been resigned, and you could see that there's a significant political instability, although the Marxist leaning party is in power for the first time. For after 22 days, the speaker to step down is again an historic factor, as well as a clear sort of a message when President is visiting today, actually, to New Delhi for his first inaugural foreign visit taking place. So all this is happening at the time when I think in the first quarter, you will have a significant U-turn in the Indo-Pacific passive strategy of Biden to a more active and more aggressive strategy by Trump. The picture is that you can see the tension in India, especially the BJP party tweeting in his Twitter handle for the last 48 hours. You can see the US deep state is involved in corruption. On highlighting corruption in India. It is you can see the significant the risk factor here there, as well as they have been affected by US highlighting corruption issues such as Adani as well as many others. So which is required. Indo-Pacific is about setting standards, norms, and values. And when there is corruption, we should highlight. Like President of Sri Lanka highlighted an Adani project, saying there is corruption in the parliament. He clearly mentioned there is corruption in it. It has to be investigated. So it's about setting norms and values. So it's very important that you do that. So on the global context, let me tell you, like, there's few points on the global context, and I'll move into regional context. First point is the wars. Basically, the Gaza conflict and the war in Ukraine have intensified global polarization, straining relationship between major powers like the US, Russia, and China. I think my previous speaker clearly highlighted the resource dependency of India. She's absolutely correct, and there is a dependency going on. But then these tensions has indirectly impacted as well as directly impacted the Indo-Pacific strategy. The second point is that the resources that US could allocate for Indo-Pacific is limited now because of the two wars. The attention as well as the military aid away, you see a sort of a shift away from the Indo-Pacific region because of the two wars that US is entangled. And so the Trump, which he promised for, the phrase he used is a golden age for United States and bringing peace. That would sort of shift that back again to Indo-Pacific, I believe. The third is the energy as well as the economic impacts, which is a very important point that also our chair mentioned, that the disruptions in many South Asian countries, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, also Nepal, Pakistan. So you see economic wars as well as economic instability moving into political instability. So the third point I want to mention is about, the both conflicts have disrupted global energy and food supply chains, increasing inflation and economic instability worldwide. So this instability directly affects South Asian as well as Indo-Pacific nations, and many of which rely on imports for energy and food security. So again, another constraint that needs to sort of be, the Trump administration needs to sort of focus on resolving most of the economic issues at the global scale. And the fourth point is the non-state actors. What you see in Syria, as well as in other from the Gaza war, see there are many. If you look at the heightened concerns over extremist ideologies and terrorism, so this has spillover effects to the region of South Asia. I mean, clearly India's relationship with Syria was very strong with the Assad regime. There was, but you see is a sort of a disruption. Disruption can have a lot of spillovers and to the Indo-Pacific theater. That's the fourth point. So coming back to the regional, so let me move to regional now, context. Again, I have 4 points to mention. So first is the advancing a free and open Indo-Pacific, which is, the key or norm of the Indo-Pacific strategy. But what you see is that the norms, values on, strengthening democracies, the democracies of South Asia, what you see is that political instability due to autocratic rule as well as minority suppression, like in the Indian election on the Muslims, the Hindutva propagation, all that is happening, and we all see it. But unfortunately, there are, groups in the Washington, D.C. who does not highlight these issues because these are the weaknesses of the Biden administration, but which will not happen in the Trump administration, I believe. So, and Trump is going to highlight these issues very directly, as well as he's going to address them, and such as the corruption issues in Sri Lanka or the Adani project. So these are going to be very key moments, and so I think in the first quarter of Trump administration is going to have a sort of a more tension with certain powers, especially in the region. The second point is about strengthening regional alliances and partnership. And as South Asia and the Indo-Pacific remains a critical region for U.S. Indo-Pacific strategy.
Can you wrap up your presentation within 1 minute as the allotted time? Yeah.
Will do. Yeah. So, there's nothing tangible, basically on the alliance building. There's nothing tangible. For example, there are train tracks have been done in ASEAN, and a lot of things are happening in the BRI, but nothing tangible is happening in the Indo-Pacific. It's just a set of norms and all that. Countries are a bit sort of highlighting this issue. The third point is countering China's expanding influence. So I think rather than countering China's influence, is you focus more on what Indo-Pacific can deliver to countries like Nepal, Sri Lanka, and such as from IPEF. Now, in IPEF, only one country is involved in the Pacific Economic Framework, only India. If you look at ASEAN, many countries are involved. So there should be more on the IPEF. The fourth and the last point is promoting economic growth and climate resilience. And as you know, the climate resilience is a serious issue. So we need to sort of have more green energy, as well as promoting through USAID as well as many US agencies. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Asanga. And now, without delaying, I will call upon Dr. P. Krishnan. He's the director for the Bay of Bengal program, BOBP, which is intergovernmental organization, India, and at the time, as I mentioned earlier, SARC is in coma. We have seen that with India's initiatives like the BIMSTEC, like minus and plus. So if that is the case, how it is shaped or is taking a shape in terms of now the Indo-Pacific context, or the Indo-Pacific strategic context, or South Asia in the Indo-Pacific context. So Dr. P. Krishnan, floor is yours, and please wrap up within 10 minutes.
Sure, very good evening, and then thanks for setting this constraint context. I have a brief presentation. I'll certainly stick to the time, yeah. Hope you are able to see the slides, Okay. So I just want to give a case, normally when we think of fisheries, it sits in the periphery. We should have heard about some conflicts between the neighboring countries, fishermen of one country entering into other. So that kind of minor skirmishes and then conflicts, but there are issues. Sometimes this may just escalate. So why fisheries has to be taken a major kind of a case in the geopolitics in this region is a case that I would like to discuss. And to understand that, I would like to give a larger case in the world. Some of us only would have heard about this cod wars. Cod is a fish. And there was a kind of a series of conflict which escalated in the scale of a war, which happened between Iceland and United Kingdom. Both were fighting for their rights to catch the fish cod. And when both the countries were acting against their own interests, there were three prominent wars, first, second, and third. In every instance, Iceland expanded its fishing zone initially from 4 to 12 nautical mile, subsequently to 50 nautical mile, and last up to 200 nautical mile. So these were all happening before the definition of the UNCLOS. So small or big, when it comes to livelihood issues, things may escalate to very high level. And this gives us a kind of a case, like a kind of a lesson for us in this region as well, like not only for the South Asia, but also for the South China Sea, where there are a lot of conflicts happening. And quickly about the region concerning the fisheries, 5 facts. 1, the catch is increasing continuously in this region. It means the fishing effort is increasing. There is going to be a lot of management issues. Second, who is contributing to the total catch? Largely in Indian Ocean, the lower middle income countries are contributing. So these are the countries which are highly vulnerable to climate change. So unless these countries are brought into the table for fisheries management, any other management exercise will not be successful. Cooperation is needed with the lower income countries. If we see both South Asia and Southeast Asia, substantial number of the fishes are shad. Shad means the fishes are caught by more than one country. So obviously, when there are more countries catching the same resources and fishes do not know the national boundaries, there will be conflicts. And the fourth fact is that particularly in this Indian Ocean region, the stock assessment coverage, the resource knowledge about the resource is very, very poor. And only 25% of the fish comes from the numerically assessed stocks. Rest all are kind of status are kind of estimated. So policy advocacy becomes very difficult when there is no adequate data. And if you see the Bay of Bengal region, how the resources are shared among the bordering countries, there are species complexes. For example, Spanish mackerel is a fish which is shared between India, Bangladesh, and Myanmar. Indian mackerel is shared between India and Sri Lanka. And there are fisheries which are kind of overexploited, overfished. And when the resources are shared, unless there is no cooperation among the countries in terms of fisheries resource assessment and then management, it will be difficult. And particularly, we are very popular, like the most commonly traded fish in the world is tuna, and it's a transboundary resource. And particularly in Indian Ocean, it is known to be moving southwards because of climate change. That challenges even the fishing ability and then the fishing rights of countries like Maldives. Their ability to catch the fish in the conventional areas is kind of getting limited. These are challenges. So now let us see like the challenge of managing the shad stock just by taking Kerangi, is a type of fish which comprises a group of 200 fishes which are commercially important. If you see the 30 years data, how they have been caught, we can see like Thailand, the share has decreased in the last decade. India's share has decreased. But suddenly the share of Indonesia, which started catching in 2011, has substantially increased in 2022. So this shows like unless we know how other countries are catching, what are the methods, what is the level of effort, only managing the national resources will not be enough. And that will again lead to conflict because the fishermen who are in the lower strata of decision making and then in the livelihood strata, so they will not be able to understand when the challenge is kind of escalated. And we should also appreciate like BIMSTEC, the area of competence, that is the Bay of Bengal, is highly productive in terms of fisheries. So the number of the countries who are fishing in the Indian Ocean, if we see, like it has increased from 34 to close to 50 in the recent years. And particularly the Bay of Bengal region, which is only 5% of the total Indian Ocean area, it accounts for 40% of the total catch of Indian Ocean and 80% of the catch of the Eastern Indian Ocean. So we can imagine like given the fishing effort, the countries who are in the rim, they have to collaborate in their own national interest in order to manage the resources for their next generation. And this is these countries are accounting, they are among the top 25 countries which are contributing to the total global fish production. 6 are from the Bay of Bengal rim countries. So that's a significant number. And if you see the challenges, why, what need to be addressed? One, if we see the trade which is happening, not only in fisheries, overall trade within this region is very, very less. On the other side, like if we take European Union as an example, substantial trade is happening. So because of that, some institutional mechanism have also been built. So interdependencies have grown over a period of time. The trade within EU and outside EU is almost comparable, 59% and 47%. And say, for example, Japan heavily invests in improving the fisheries in the Southeast Asian countries in the region because they are the major suppliers. Whereas just opposite true, like on the graph, if you can see, like the trade that happens among the region is almost negligible, whereas the trade of Bay of Bengal rim countries with outside the region is very high. So this has to be reversed to bring interdependencies and then close dependence, not only in fisheries, in all sectors. And if you see the extent of research collaboration among the scientists here, even among the resources which are available only in this region, the scientists in this region collaborate with the researchers outside the region. Like, so it does not mean like actually it should not be collaborating outside, but rather there has to be stronger network among the researchers here that will help in greater diplomacy and then addressing the issues when there is a need for interacting with the community, particularly the fishermen. So academic and research diplomacy is important for building the mutually beneficial cooperation is a larger message. Recognizing this, Government of India, the Ministry of External Affairs has commissioned a program with the BOBP. So we are implementing a BIMSTEC India Marine Research Network. It is BIMRAN, so which supports research collaboration of the Bay of Bengal rim countries with the labs and scientists in India. So this provides opportunity for twinning research projects with the scientists in the region with Indian scientists. Similarly, the students, PhD students studying in this region to do research in Indian, part of their PhD research in Indian labs. So it is hope like by forging stronger collaboration, the knowledge that will be made available in marine science research will be strengthened. Lastly, to close, normally we know about conflicts and then wars over more valuable resources like oil, data and all, like, but fish is not much talked about. But we should realize, like, unless these conflicts are addressed in the early time through collaboration, they will be increased or escalated to a much higher order that will become a bigger challenge. Like, and international laws are not entirely adequate to resolve geopolitical resource conflicts. And when it comes to fisheries resource management, the countries which are here, they have to appreciate the resources are shared. So they may have to have collective views on what constitute the sustainable resource management when they articulate about the resources of the world.
Have 1 minute to wrap up, please.
Finished. And so there is a greater scope for scientific diplomacy for resource conflict. This has to be leveraged. And in this context, India has a great role to play, given the policy that is steering, that is Sagar and neighborhood first policy. Like, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. As you extensively you mentioned about the intra-regional trade in terms of fisheries and the EEZ areas, and then the from like just keeping engaged bordering countries broadly in the scope of the Sagar. So now I will call upon Mira Rai, a PhD scholar. She's at NICE and she's pursuing her PhD in political science and international relations from South Korea, Ewha Women's University. So Mira, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Okay, please go ahead.
So I want to share my presentation. Can everyone see my presentation?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yes,
See,
sir?
yeah. Please go ahead.
Okay. So, greetings, everyone. It's truly an honor to speak among such distinguished speakers, experts, and scholars. Today, I will be speaking shortly on the topic Nepal's geopolitical balancing act in the Indo-Pacific region. So as global politics has been going through massive change and Asia's resurgence in global politics and the rise of Indo-Pacific as a new theater of geopolitics indicates the dawn of a new era in world politics with the reorientation of America's Pacific strategy and China's assertion in South China Sea. The Indo-Pacific has become the fulcrum of an unfolding world order. So the Indo-Pacific, which is a vital economic hub, has become a key arena for power competition between China and India, as well as between the US and China. So China's Belt and Road Initiative and string of pearl strategies underscores the ambition to dominate the region, raising concern over its aggressive policies. In response, India counters with measures like the Act East policy, participation in the Quad and the alliances with like-minded nations, while the US has recalibrated its Indo-Pacific strategy to counter China's growing influence. So by fostering military alliances and also partnerships to maintain regional stability and challenge Beijing dominance. So with the growing concern in the Indo-Pacific region, so what is the importance of Nepal? Well, number one, it's Nepal's geographic significance of Nepal. So Nepal's geography has placed it in a position of strategic importance, making it highly significant in the eyes of major global powers. Although it is relatively small and landlocked nation, Nepal occupies a crucial role within the South Asian geostrategic landscape, sharing of 1,415 kilometer border with China and 1,880 kilometer border with India. The rise of great power rivalries has sparked international interest in Nepal's geopolitical significance and being positioned at the heart of Sino-Indian competition, as well as amidst the intense rivalry between the United States and China. So Nepal's geopolitical implications are very crucial. And for the United States, Nepal's strategic significance mainly arises from its geographical closeness to both China and India, which necessitates engagement with these emerging powers. So as a result, Nepal must consider its own priorities in interest in relation to changing global power dynamics. And like many other smaller countries, it has also expectations from these competing superpowers and the newly formed multilateral partnerships. Additionally, as a rational state,
Excuse me, you are
Nepal
not moving your slides actually.
Oh,
Also
yeah.
put it in full screen, like, yeah.
Actually, it
you,
is in the full screen, yeah. So,
full screen,
yes.
but we can't see the slides moving and full screen. Yeah, now it's moving, but not still full screen.
It's okay, readable. You can move, like, yeah.
Okay, go ahead with the presentation.
So, as a rational state, Nepal aims to align itself with the prevailing victor to take advantage of the opportunities that arises. And number two is national relations with key players. So, first of all, let's talk about India-Nepal relation. Well, historically, India has a crucial has considered Nepal a key ally due to their shared borders, cultural links, and economic interdependence. However, events such as the 2015 economic blockade during Nepal's constitutional crisis has weakened the relations with India, resulting in anti-Indian sentiment and driving Nepal closer to China. So in recent years, Nepal has actively engaged with China's BRI, and just a few days ago, Nepal signed a BRI framework, as well as which indicates the efforts to balance foreign relations and maintain sovereignty in the face of Beijing's expanding influence in South Asia. And furthermore, the political changes in Nepal, particularly the firm approach of KP Sharma Oli's government and its assertions regarding contentious regions with India, have additionally impacted the bilateral relationship. Despite India being Nepal's biggest trading partner and a vital contributor to investment and tourism, agreements like the 2023 Trade and Transit Treaty and infrastructure initiatives like the Motihari Amlekhganj petroleum pipeline are actually the strengthening economic connections. Nevertheless, Nepal's geographical limitation highlights its reliance on India, and despite ongoing territorial conflicts, India has strategically included Nepal in its Indo-Pacific strategy through the neighborhood first policy and seeking to enhance regional collaboration in light of China's increasing influence. So Nepal's participation in BIMSTEC and its changing political stance indicates a move towards a neutral foreign policy, maintaining relations with India and China to tackle border issues, trade disparities, and national interests. And about United States, the US was the first major power to acknowledge Nepal's independence following World War II, establishing formal diplomatic relations on 25th April 1947 and inaugurating its embassy in Kathmandu in 1959. So during the Cold War, the US focused on limiting communist, especially Chinese influence in Nepal, which offered significant aid through programs like the Point 4 program. And up until the 1960s, US was the largest donor of aid to Nepal. In the 2000s, the US adjusted its strategy due to India's increasing influence in Nepal and the rise of the Maoist insurgency, aligning its policies more with Indian interests. But recently, in the light of China's increasing presence, the US has aimed to reestablish its influence in Nepal, as demonstrated by the signing of MCC Compact in 2017, which pledged $500 million for infrastructure development. And regardless of the geopolitical rivalry, Nepal ratified the MCC, and it is also a signatory to BRI, which means Nepal is rightfully engaging with great powers and not letting US-China rivalry impose on the pursuit of its national interest and development. Also, Nepal's strategic importance in the Indo-Pacific Strategy, IPS, in 2019, US officials have stated in documents that Nepal can play a vital role in the Indo-Pacific region and that Nepal is a valued partner in the Indo-Pacific. And talking about China's growing influence in Nepal is evident through initiatives like BRI, and following the 2015 Indian blockade, Nepal turned to China for economic and infrastructure support. And while Nepal leverages China's rise to reduce Indian dominance, it carefully navigates these partnerships to preserve sovereignty. Moreover, the Tibet and its Tibet remaining a geopolitical focal point in China and the South and even Central Asia area, Nepal's strategic importance stems from its role as the gateway through the Himalayan geographical obstacle. Maybe this situation allows Washington to friendshore Nepal, and Nepal has historically upheld a neutral foreign policy and has been wary of engaging in a regional power struggle. Nonetheless, in recent times, worries have arisen regarding Beijing's growing influence in Nepal, particularly concerning infrastructure development and investment. And this has sparked speculation regarding whether Nepal might eventually align itself more closely with China or with India or with other countries in the Indo-Pacific region. So Tibet holds a crucial point in US-China relations, acting as a strategic asset in the competition. And following China's takeover of Tibet in 1950s, the US backed Tibetan opposition by providing financial assistance and military support, which included secret camps in Nepal until the 1950s.
I want to request you, please, can you wrap up your presentation?
Oh, sure. So I was talking about the US, why so US is the important in the relation with Nepal for Indo-Pacific region. I think I have a lot to say in my presentation, but I will say the few very important.
Yeah.
There are three main key pillars for the Nepal Strategic Balancing Act.
30 seconds and wrap up your presentation. I request you.
30 seconds? Hello?
Yes. You have already taken 1 more minute.
So maybe I would just conclude that, in conclusion, what I want to conclude from my presentation is that Nepal's strategic location right at the heart of the Sino-Indian rivalry and border US-China competition have amplified its geopolitical significance in its in the Indo-Pacific region. And despite there are many complexities, Nepal still remains committed to its constitutional principle of non-alignment. And at the same time, it finds a way to tap into economic opportunities through initiatives like China's BRI and the US-backed Millennium Challenge.
Okay. Thank you, Mira. Thank you. Probably we'll have more time during Q&A session, and then others will definitely jump in it with, and there will be more rich, fruitful discussion. Now I will move to the Dr. Hasith Kandaudahewa. He is an independent researcher and analyst. He will be speaking on the role and the context, the Sri Lanka in the Indo-Pacific. So charting the path forward is the title given to him. And as I'm not sure, are you still working with the University of Auckland as you were associated earlier?
Hello. No, actually, I just moved to Canada and starting my work.
Wait,
I'm audible. Good morning, everyone. I'm audible. Good morning, everyone. I'm audible for you?
Yeah, you're audible.
Okay. First, thank you, Anais, for inviting me for this event today. I'll be discussing evolving the role of Sri Lanka in the Pacific region, examining its journey from past to present and the future. I have divided my presentation into the three main aspects. First, I will provide a brief historical overview of Sri Lanka's role in the Pacific, focusing on ideological evolution of its foreign policy and exploring how Sri Lanka's strategic behavior changed from balancing to bandwagoning and more recently to the hedging foreign policy. Second, I will focus on foreign policy of newly elected President Annakumara Dissanayake, focusing on into his vision, election manifestos, and aspiration to transform Sri Lanka as a collaborative net security provider in South Asian region. Finally, I will address the challenges, opportunities, and threats shaping Sri Lanka's Indo-Pacific policy with adjustment and the future forecast to its strategic direction. Sri Lanka is known as a pearl of Indian Ocean, located within the strategic choke point in Indian Ocean region. Since the independence, we adhere to the democratic principles while adopting the non-alignment policy as the cornerstone of its foreign policy. Non-alignment allowed Sri Lanka to navigate the complex geopolitical dynamics without aligning strict with any major power during the Cold and post-war era. However, as a small state, we had a limited potential and economic capability. Therefore, Sri Lanka has a trouble with escaping from a small state dilemma. Starting from 1978, Sri Lankan political elite had a vision to establish Sri Lanka as the hub of Asia, using its geopolitical location and the strategic importance. In 1978, former President J.R. Jayawardena emphasized Sri Lanka's projected ability and capability as a hub of Asia, which mainly laid the ideological foundation to the notion of the hub in Sri Lankan foreign policy history. During the post-Cold War era, Sri Lankan geopolitical neighbors, mainly India and China, emerged as a potential strategic partners, while China grew more involved and reached its peak by constructing the port of Hambantota and port of Colombo Port City. On the other hand, India often maintained the more cautious and silent stance until 2017. Even the Sri Lankan political elite offered more exclusive and generous deal with India. This situation led Sri Lanka to adapt more enigmatic foreign policy compared to its earlier practices to the economic alignment. Since then, starting from Mahinda Rajapaksa era, Sri Lankan political elite for closer ties with China, which brought both opportunities and challenges, including the concerns over the regional stability. So if you look at this diagram, this is the evolution of Sri Lanka's Indo-Pacific strategy, starting with the balancing bandwagoning hedging. If you look at from 1947 to 1972, we try to balance, we try to follow the balancing foreign policy by following the different strategic, for example, cooperation and multilateralism. During 1970, 47 to 72, Sri Lankan strategic main dilemma was the threat perception driven. After 1977 to 2015, the Sri Lankan strategy for foreign policy is changing from bandwagoning, mostly aligning with the superpowers or regional powers in the world. So in that case, starting from 1977, we adopted the strategy of deterrence and then mutual cooperation. And from 2004 to 2014, again, we engaged with the strategy of deterrence. That means aligning with China to deter India South. From 2004 to 2014, Sri Lanka more the hub of Asia, or the Sri Lanka is a strategic object. Sri Lanka's advancing strategic posture and some naval power. From 2017, after the Hamamatri Report D, Sri Lanka showed the hedging policy by taking the hedging policy by engaging with the mutual coexistence and deterrence. Presently, we can clearly evidence more mutual coexistence policy is followed with people-to-people and people-to state-to-state approach. Sri Lanka's journey in alignment with Indo-Pacific region has been both strategic and dynamic. Since early 2000, Sri Lanka has demonstrated commitment to the principles closely resembling today's the free and open Indo-Pacific norms, concept that emphasize openness, connectivity, and inclusivity in the region. Under the premiership of former President and Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe during the 2002 and 2004, Sri Lanka introduced the 5-hub strategy as a centerpiece of its foreign policy. Policy aimed to position Sri Lanka as a key hub and as a critical player in Indian Ocean region. As this concept matured, 5-hub policy transformed into the broader ambition of becoming the hub of Asia or the want of Asia. However, this period from 2004 to 2015 also marked Sri Lanka's adoption of bandwagoning approach in its foreign policy, seeking alignment with either regional or global superpowers depending on strategic opportunities and challenges. 2017, during his subsequent term as Prime Minister, Wickremesinghe openly aligned Sri Lanka with the norms of free and open Indo-Pacific, highlighting the importance of partnership with major powers, including the China. This balanced approach underscored Sri Lanka's desire to leverage its geostrategic position while maintaining inclusivity in its engagement with the regional and global stakeholders. So now we come to the present scenario. We recently, in September 2024, Sri Lanka witnessed a significant shift in the political landscape, especially election of President Anukumara Dissanayake and his policy. He highlighted, his administration highlighted more balancing fostering relationship with global powers while safeguarding the Sri Lanka's sovereignty and regional interests. I'm sure that President Anukumara Dissanayake leadership will face issues as he seeks to maintain the non-aligned foreign policy among the growing tensions in the Indo-Pacific region and rising influence of the global superpower. Under the leadership of Anukumara, Sri Lankan foreign policy has taken a bold and innovative turn, unlike the previous administration, which is largely emphasized the traditional security priorities. President Anukumara has introduced a new vision, a commitment to becoming the net security provider and the first responder in the region. This shift signals broader and more forward-looking approach in security, addressing not only the military threat, but also the non-traditional security challenges. These include climate change, disasters, maritime security, human trafficking, and cyber threat, which are increasingly become the topic in Indian Ocean. I'm sure that President Anukumara Dissanayake will become a defining movement. His presidency will become a defining movement in Sri Lanka's modern history, not just for the symbolic break of the traditional political status quo, for its effect to redefine the Sri Lanka's roles in both domestic and international. One of the foremost pressing challenges President Kumara Dissanayake raised on Sri Lankan foreign policy. The question is, should Sri Lanka streamline its policy toward China or India or other global, or should focus on recording interests of India and China accurately to navigate the balance? So this is one of the main key questions that we have. If we look at the historical evidence from past, both we can see that both India and China employing the combination of hard and soft power, and especially the conventional and unconventional method to assert their ideological and strategic influence in Sri Lanka, whether through infrastructure development, trade agreement, diplomatic maneuvers, mainly to secure the island. If Sri Lanka started to look beyond India and China, and align with another superpower like United States,
Conclude your presentation in a minute.
Okay, thank you. Then India and China will take to dominate the hegemonic position in the Indian Ocean. So President Andrew Kumar must navigate this complex geopolitical web carefully, and Sri Lankan's success will depend on its ability to maintain the strategic autonomy, especially foster the equitable partnership. And if you go to the next one, if you look at the recent development in Sri Lanka, we can clearly see Sri Lanka is strategically shifting its focus away from BRIC EU-based economic model, leaning toward more strong economic type Asian and GCC nation. And also, Sri Lanka is moving to the active multilateral engagement. This marks a significant shift from the Rajasthan and Vikram Singh era, where bilateral ties and limited global outreach often characterized as a policy. So I believe that President Andrew Kumar Dissanayake approach will diversify Sri Lanka's economic partnership and positions and the nation as a forward-thinking and collaborative player in the Indian Ocean. Which, if you look at my last slide, is shifting from Sri Lanka's small state dilemma and promoting the net security as a net security provider will be recorded by others' power and substance. So we have to be very careful. And also we have a risk becoming the potential weak victim of escalating the US-China trade hostilities. So these are the main threats that we have. We can predict that current president might face. So far, Sri Lanka is following the hedging foreign policy, and we continue the hedging foreign policy in order to more benefit. Thank you very much. And
okay, thank you very much. Navigating how new president AKD is looking to diversify his challenges and tenure. And now, without delay, I will request Dr. Abhishek Pratap Singh, is assistant professor at the University of Delhi, political science. He will be, dealing how Delhi or India is dealing at this moment regarding the Indo-Pacific region and how South Asia identity, which time and again have tried to define it, redefine it, and as new challenges are coming, there are some programs at the government level inside like region, but again without giving more like specific points from my side, I will ask Dr. Abhishek. Please go ahead. You have 10 minutes, Dr. Abhishek.
Very good afternoon. Am I audible to all of them, all of you?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. First of all, thank you very much. Nice, Dr. Pramod Jaiswal and respected chair, Dr. Deepak Prakash Bhatt, for offering me the opportunity to speak on this very interesting subject, along with a very interesting panel of experts from across the globe. Now, my presentation will basically cover the 5 major points regarding the India's strategy, or you can say the approach to the Indo-Pacific, and how this approach and how this idea is well aligned with the interest of the South Asian states as well. And that is what I would like to set the context. If we set the context, regarding the Indo-Pacific as a region, if we see the power of the USA is after the 2008 financial crisis has been on the withdrawal, where the China has become more stronger. India at the same time has also become influential. But what is the similar in context of that? The flashpoints, the Korea, Taiwan, South China Sea, the flashpoints largely remain a major concern in the Indo-Pacific region. And these flashpoints are concern for all the major states, stakeholders, not just the stakeholders, but also the South Asia as a region. Even the European states have now also got engaged, France with this Paris, Canberra, Delhi dialogue, and other European states which were not, which have now recent development started taking less positioning, and because of the distinct challenges. So it is a very, very interesting region where we see a lot of the geopolitics and a lot of the development taking place. Now, when we see the India's approach, first is, of course, the idea of Indo-Pacific in Indian foreign policy has something which has evolved, and that is, I found much similar in case of the South Asian region. I mean, how the South Asian regions understand the Indo-Pacific. And one region was because of the understanding of the US regarding the Indo-Pacific. I mean, US involved much into the Western theater of the Pacific. They relegated Indian Ocean because Indian Ocean doesn't figure that much in their understanding of the Indo-Pacific. Something we see the role of the Indian Ocean was less marginal. That was the reason because the India as such, and also the South Asian region, was not that much figuring. Although the Indo-Pacific was meant to represent the confluence of Indian and the Pacific Ocean, where the US would act in concert with the like-minded allies and partner, Washington adopted a narrow geographic frame of reference related to Japan, India, France, and ASEAN. And I think this conceptualization was something leaving the Western Indian Ocean, Japanese free and open Indo-Pacific, FOIP, the France IP strategy, and also the India SAGO vision. So with this setting, I mean, while India was also evolving its understanding regarding the Indo-Pacific, I think that is also important. The South Asia was also not able to that much figure in. So that was one thing. I think that was also a point Asanga raised in his presentation, that how after the Trump administration there was going to be some kind of paradigm shifts regarding the Indo-Pacific. So my point was that the strategy, the approach has evolved, and with the evolution of Indian Ocean region in the Indo-Pacific after the Biden and Obama administration, we have also seen India's approach to IP evolving, and also the South Asia region coming into the scene. Now, second, of course, why Indian Ocean is critical for that? Of course, you see the trade routes for those centuries. I mean, the critical sea lanes of communication, the world's oil shipments, and also the major share that Indian Ocean provides to the region. Also, those Indian Ocean region, if you see from the Indian point of view and the South Asia, there are several sub-regions also broadly encompass: Australasia, Southeast Asia, South Asia, West Asia, and Eastern and Southern Africa. So I mean, it's a major transit corridor with critical sea lanes of communication, and the major trade route from the Pacific to the east. So I think with the evolving from the evolution, with the centrality of Indian Ocean coming into the Indo-Pacific discourse, we see the India's approach and India's role getting into the prominence. And I think this is what time when the Prime Minister Modi made a speech on the Shanghai Dialogue, setting India's understanding of the free, open, and inclusive and rule-based Indo-Pacific. Now, with this emergence of Indian Ocean as a critical corridor in the Indo-Pacific, we have seen also the India and the South Asia coming as an important. What I'm trying to insist is that the much of the Indian interest and India's approach are in alliance with the interest and benefit of the South Asian region. So the third is, of course, the Chinese role. I mean, the China aggression, the Chinese evolution in the Indo-Ocean region. I mean, in the 90s, PLA doesn't had that much warships and submarine deployment, but the situation changed with the military modernization and the more aggressive posturing of the China. Also, it coming aligned with the maritime Silk Route and also the BRI and the course economic tool that coming up. So the Chinese presence, in terms of the Chinese military presence, was much a kind of a provocation, much a kind of a sense of urgency that has also been remain a concern for the India. And I can say, I mean, with 2010 we see BRI coming as economic tool. With 2016 we see situation at the border creating problem between India and China. So with the ascent and with the enhanced military deployments and enhanced confrontation, offensive operations, and other, especially regarding fisheries, maritime fisheries issue, the maritime research, the violation of UNCLOS, the more activeness of the Chinese in the region has also been a major concern, for the India, and that is also a concern for the South Asian states, because this aggression will lead to some kind of challenge. What we see is that there's utter disregard for the rule of law, the marine research, fishing presence, and that has been shaping the India's approach to Indo-Pacific, and that is also something aligned with the interest of the South Asia as a region. Now, fourth is about what is India's outlook for the Indo-Pacific? I mean, China is of course not the only driver of India's growing interest in the Pacific, but of course it has been a major motivator. Now, if we see to the India's approach to the region, India's outlook for the Shangri-La dialogue I mentioned is of course the benchmark, the framework which set India's approach for the free, open, inclusive Indo-Pacific. But what I see that much of the approach of India is regarding the role of the balancer and not militarizing the region, and that is something also beneficial for the major states in the South Asian region. If the region starts getting militarizing, that will become a major concern, and also India approach as a developing region, not per se as a security framework, but as a trading and development partner, bringing more inclusivity, more openness, as we see that India has been able to explore the public goods, the idea of public development recently, how the India's digitalization was accepted in the Singaporean UPI bill got accepted. So promoting the emerging landscape in artificial intelligence, digital economy, technological advances, economic cooperation, focusing more on partnership. And that is something, if the region is not getting militarized, the region is not getting conflicted, if the region is not getting trouble, I mean, that is India's approach, and that approach is particularly in strict alignment with the South Asian interests, South Asian states, because these states and these regions are very small. They have more to lose and less to gain. So, I mean, if the region remains peaceful, if the region remains more developmentally aligned, also given India's historical and cultural linkages with the region. That was the fourth variable, that India's approach to the Indo-Pacific is something much aligned with the interest of South Asia as a region. Now, last point is, of course, about the 4 C's that India basically follows. I mean, I've tried to bring into in very articulate manners. That first is, of course, the collaborations. When we talk of 4 C's, of course, the collaboration. And when we focus on the collaboration, that means, I mean, these collaborations are basically not just in terms of Quad, but also the regional forum, the various multilateral forums in which SAARC can play an important role. Also, the issue-based partnerships, the collaboration on the basis of partnership, development, and alliances, and that is something what important. The second C is, of course, the confluence of values. I mean, values that Indian foreign policy and Indian model has been advocating for, the soft power, the democracy, that has been important, which South Asian states are struggling with, some of them. The protection of the liberty and the vibrant civil society. That is, if the confluence of values is one of the approach that India invokes while dealing with Indo-Pacific.
It's a reminder for your...
Of course. The third is, of course, the convergence on providing solutions to the issues in Indo-Pacific, rather than looking for any revolutionary change, any security alliance, any containment, or any kind of militarizing of the region. The focus should be more on the convergence of solutions. And the fourth C is about the coexistence with the minilateralism. When I talk of the coexistence with the minilateralism, that means, of course, the IPK, the Quad, the Indian Ocean Rim region, the BIMSTEC, the SAARC. These are various regional organizations which form the minilateralism, which can also coexist within the larger idea of the cooperation between the states in the Indo-Pacific. And that is, I think, this is something very much aligned with the interest of the South Asian region. So Delhi's advocacy, and Delhi's advocacy of rule-based regional order, its promotion of economic integration in the Southeast Asian states within the Indo-Pacific, is not just in the interest and benefit of the India, but will also benefit the entire South Asian region. I think I'll stop here, and if there's any question, I'll be able to take them. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Abhishek. Setting context, how India is, been a kind of attempt in bilateral manner, or at the same time in a multilateral manner. Now, without delay, as Dr. Monish couldn't get in touch, as at the beginning he was trying to connect, but it was not audible now. But last but not the least, Dr. Karmveer Singh, Assistant Professor at the University of Rajasthan, will be speaking on how India's soft power diplomacy towards the Southeast Asia is going to deal with the context of the Indo-Pacific or the South Asian context or the Indian context. So please, Dr. Karmveer, go ahead. Floor is yours. Please wrap up in 10 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, a very good afternoon to all of you. Thank you so much, respected chair. And thank you, Pramod, for this opportunity. I will be speaking on Indian soft power diplomacy towards Southeast Asia, especially in historical context. So the concept of soft power, basically, it was developed by Joseph Nye in 1990. And according to Nye, the definition of soft power is when our country gets other countries to want what it wants might be called co-opting or soft power, in contrast with the hard power or command power of ordering others to do what it wants. So it is opposite to soft power is opposite to hard power. Hard power means use of military force and use of economic might also. So soft power is also an ability of a country to structure a situation so that other countries develop their preferences or define their interests in ways consistent with its own. So this is the definition given by Joseph Nye. So according to Nye, soft power basically it rests on the ability of attraction and the ability to influence the behavior, the policy, and preferences of other countries without using any coercive methods. So that is soft power. So according to Nye, there are the three important resources of soft power. First is culture. Culture in places where it is attractive to others. And the second is political values. Political values when it lives up to them at home and abroad. And third is foreign policies. Foreign policies when they are seen as legitimate in the eyes of others. So these three resources have been identified by Joseph Nye. So in case of India, Joseph Nye has stated that in terms of soft power, India has an established democracy and was long regarded as a leader of non-aligned countries during the Cold War. India has an influence in diaspora, and its motion pictures industry is the largest in the world in terms of the number of films produced yearly, competing with Hollywood in parts of Asia and the Middle East. So Joseph Nye has identified basically three main resources of Indian soft power. And one of them is democracy, and the second is India's non-aligned policy, and the third is influential Indian diaspora. And the fourth one also is Bollywood, basically motion pictures. But he has missed out several important resources of Indian soft power, and one of them is culture. So in case of culture, culture plays a very, very important role in international relations because it is an expression of a country's identity and image, therefore an important factor in relations between the states. It plays a key role in the process of enhancing the reputation of a country, and so it has been therefore it has been used as a foreign policy tool by many countries. And the governments now are using the culture as a vehicle in promoting connectivity at people-to-people level, and also promoting understanding between the nation states also. In case of India's relations with Southeast Asia, so I would like to speak in historical context, especially. So India shares a long history of cultural and commercial contacts with the region of Southeast Asia, and this interaction is in terms of history, culture, and religion has been unique. From the very early centuries of the Common Era, the Bay of Bengal, which has been a highway of communication between the two regions, South Asia and Southeast Asia, bringing closer the cultures and economies and the people of both sides. So during this course of interaction, religious beliefs, Hinduism and Buddhism and other religious traditions and knowledge, values, and language, literature, art, architecture, these were transmitted from India to Southeast Asia, and they contributed to the development of the local culture of this region, especially. So Indian traders, Brahmin priests, Buddhist monks, scholars, adventurers, they played an important role in the transmission of Indian cultural elements to Southeast Asia. So through the contact and interaction, this cultural influence slowly and gradually penetrated into the local pattern of life in both mainland and island Southeast Asia, and without using any coercive methods. So I would like to mention here that Buddhism has been in the center of this whole process of historical, cultural, and commercial interaction between India and Southeast Asia. Even it is one of the strongest bond that connects the region of South Asia and Southeast Asia in ancient times, and still remains a very powerful force in fostering cooperation and enhancing understanding between the two region, South Asia and Southeast Asia. We know that Nepal is the birthplace of Buddha, and the Buddhist philosophy, the Buddhist principles, Buddhist teachings were developed in different parts of India. During the Mauryan period, it is mentioned in the Mahavamsa, a very old Sri Lankan text, that a delegation of monks led by Sona and Uttara was sent to Swarnabhumi to spread the teachings of Buddha. So, but there is actually debate among the historians that where exactly this land of Swarnabhumi is situated. But some historians are agree that it is situated between Myanmar and Thailand, basically. So probably through the sea route from India to Myanmar via Sri Lanka, the teachings of Buddha were spread to the region of Southeast Asia by missionary monks, traders, and local rulers of South Asia. Rulers of Sri Lanka and Nepal and India. They also provided much needed support and assistance in this process of transmission of Buddhist teachings. So thus historically, Buddhism provided a network of people-to-people contacts, exchange of ideas, knowledge, and students and scholars from different parts of Asia that traveled to Nalanda to pursue education and knowledge of Buddhist scriptures in ancient times. The universal principles of Buddhism still remains an integral part of national ideologies of Nepal, Sri Lanka, and India, and also for other countries of Southeast Asia, especially Thailand and Burma. So Buddhism basically is a collective asset.
Karmveer, I request you to wrap up within a minute.
South Asia and Southeast.
You have 1 minute, Dr. Karmveer.
Yeah. After independence, India, the government of India took many initiatives to strengthen the relations with the countries of Southeast Asia, and Buddhism was used as an instrument in this process. The present government also has taken many initiatives. Some of them are Samvad dialogue and exposition of Buddha relics and the revival of Nalanda as a center of knowledge and development of Buddhist circuits and all that. So because of the paucity of time, I would like to conclude my presentation here. Soft power may not be a substitute of hard power, but when hard power is failing to find the solutions of current problems, terrorism, extremism, and the conflicts between the nation states and the communities also. So in that way, soft power may be prioritized, and it can be used to enhance the cooperation and understanding, as well as to create an amicable environment among the nation states. Buddhism, which is a collective heritage of South Asian countries, may be utilized as an instrument in strengthening ties with the countries of Southeast Asia and the other countries of East Asia also, and also to promote stability and friendly atmosphere, which Buddha called Maitri in the region of Indo-Pacific on the basis of universal principles of Buddhism. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Karmveer. With this, we come to a part of like presentations. Now, I will request our participants to make their queries, questions, or any comments or any feedbacks, as in academia, as in international conference, especially while we are talking about the Indo-Pacific region, whole this Asia-Pacific, how it is renamed, rebranded as a Indo-Pacific now. Quad is there, maritime cooperation is there, challenges are there, great power, rivalry and presence is here, and all these things and the ideas related to the competition and cooperation is there. And in that context, how South Asia fits into in the coming day challenges we have discussed. And I see some active participants, and especially our friends from Armenia, Esther, and then yes, definitely Amit and many other friends are there. I know, and I personally can say, let's how you are thinking, how you see these coming changes. Poonam is there. So anyway, this is how the South Asia is taking, or the countries are have tried to construct our image South Asia, sub-regional identity, relating it to the ASEAN, relating it to the comparing it to the European Union or Caribbean, African, or the other identities, or the regional or the sub-regional identity. It is on the way somewhere. The momentum is lost, but again, it's challenged to construct its, identity with multilateral cooperations at the age of multilateralism. How it is planning or how it is shaping. That's where we have been discussing. We have great ideas from our presenters. So I will open floor for our participants. I found there are few questions already in the chat box. If not, then I will look at that. And by the time I will, okay, Amit Singh to meeting group chat. How does climate change impact in South Asia's security paradigm? Okay, there are a few questions, and definitely I will come up with that. If it is pointed out to someone, then I will ask for that. If not, then generally you can jump into how you see it. Amit Singh is asking, how can South Asian countries collaborate to enhance regional connectivity and infrastructure, particularly through the initiatives like Bay of Bengal initiative, BIMSTEC initiative, and how does climate change impact South Asia's security and stability within the broader Indo-Pacific framework, and what can be done to address these challenges? So these two concerns are there. One regarding the BIMSTEC as a structure, institution, and another is common global agenda, and in the sub-region as a South Asia, how we can respond to the climate change as we have sea, as we have Himalayas. As the Himalayas, the glaciers are melting. At the same time, the rise, the sea level is rising. So context is there. So anyone want to respond these two queries? First, Dr. Abhishek, take 2 minutes, and then we'll take a round around the table.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. I mean, I think regarding the BIMSTEC and reactivating the South Asian solidarity, I mean, one is, of course, the purpose of minilateralism is now activated in the region with different minilateral organizations coming and acting. So within the larger framework of Indo-Pacific, I think this moment and with the purpose of minilateralism, I think the countries in the SAARC and in specific reference to the BIMSTEC can reactivate their cooperation, because SAARC was established and conceptualized in 1985 and it has not kick-started till then. So what I'm trying to say is that, I mean, this time, this is the mature, I mean, this is the timing. This is the relevant. So if the South Asian states are able to show the strategic adaptability with the changing landscape, I think that is it would be a right time to kickstart some cooperation and connectivity within the framework of BIMSTEC. And in the age of minilateralism, where many-lateral corporations and regional subgroupings are activating, I think this is the right time and opportunity through where India, Bangladesh, Myanmar, these countries can come up and develop a connectivity which can also trigger, which can also lead greater collaboration with the East Asian countries as well as India and South Asian region. So it is an economic opportunity, but to adopt that, we need to show the strategic adaptability as a region. That is my response to the first question. I think second, someone can take. I have no expertise on the climate change.
Thank you, Abhishek. There's one more question popped up, which is not specific, but specific. I will take it. If someone want to respond a query related to the climate change and the climate security, how it can be, like in a South Asian perspective. Is it a common threat? Is it a common framework? Have we been trying to respond it collectively? Is there any initiative or lead role taken by or discussed in forums? Okay, then if this is the case, I will read out another question which is directly pointed to Dr. Agnieszka regarding what is the European perspective? How does India's role in the Indo-Pacific differ from the traditional Western power? As we see, Western power, the context is like a nation-state notion of West, and then colonial era, and then construct of the like in a different context. Now, what unique opportunities and challenges does India face in influencing the region? So, Dr. Agnieszka, are you here?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you. That is a very interesting question. And of course, first thing that comes to my mind is that I would look at it from the perspective of India's geographic centrality and proximity in the region, because India is located directly in the Indo-Pacific region. It has vital interest on the Indian Ocean. It has historical affinities to the countries of the region of South Asia. So, and major strategic interests along the maritime routes. So unlike Western powers, Western democratic powers, we could emphasize the fact that India has direct connectivity. India has cultural, economic affinities, historical connections to the entire region, and India regards South Asia as its like geostrategic interest point. So for sure, India has vital interest in South Asia, but at the same time, as we all know, South Asia is the least integrated region due to the protracted India-Pakistan conflict. And I think when it comes to dealing with all these problems, which we mentioned here today, and which are also included in the questions from climate change to connectivity, the reason, or one of the reasons for the fact that China is to a large extent successfully entering the geostrategic sphere of interest in South Asia is the fact that there is a major unresolved conflict within South Asia. As we know, Pakistan cooperates with China within the BRI project, and China has more and more affinities and relations with Sri Lanka, with Nepal, with Bangladesh, and I think in this regard, this is in India's interest to somehow protect South Asia from growing impact of China. And in this regard, to some extent, Western countries can somehow cooperate with India. But for sure, there is this geographic centrality. And I think if India wants to play a more important role globally, the way India shows and proves its geostrategic agency and capability within South Asia will also show how, in fact, India is able to act as one of the global regional powers. This is like a testing ground, I would say, for India, how India acts and what position and capabilities it has in South Asia. South Asia, unfortunately, is weakened by the conflict. And in the foreseeable future, it's difficult to predict, unfortunately, that India-Pakistan conflict will be resolved. And I would say that this is, the root of all evil in South Asia. The lack of connectivity, lack of integration, lack of cooperation.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Agnieszka. And here is one direct question to Asanga. Asanga, are you hearing me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, and if you have gone through the chat
Yes.
box, what role do you envision for South Asian countries, particularly Sri Lanka and Nepal, in the Indo-Pacific, and how can they position themselves strategically between China and India as the rivalry is there between? So this is a question to you on Facebook. So please take your time.
Well, I think that's a very important question. India, Nepal, as well as India's immediate periphery, all the countries. There's a problem. You see, India is saying India is great, but none of the India's periphery is saying India is great. As well as the India-centric view, the only India-centric view coming from places like Washington, D.C., it lacks the views or the voices of Nepal, Bangladesh, Maldives. It is a very, for the 4 years I have learned, there are 225 think tanks in Washington, D.C. All of them, most of them are headed by Indians. There's no Nepalese, there's no Bangladeshi. So it's a more India-centric view. At one conference I visited recently, a Maldivian, very senior diplomat was just telling me that, just listen to what they are saying. It's like they don't have a role. It's a very sad situation. India is a strength, a power in the region, and the regional countries need to sort of recognize this. They don't recognize because of, I would say, the India's strategic thinking. There are weaknesses. So someone, in the periphery has to sort of mention this. China gives space to these countries. China has given space to Sri Lanka. If you talk to the public of Sri Lanka, you see a positive remark on China. While India is seen as, intervening on political affairs. And so there are many. So I think the important of the Indo-Pacific, to recognize, to sort of, strengthen the Indo-Pacific strategy in the region, India needs to play a more strategic, a pivotal role, where the regional countries, together with the regional countries, that's really important. So I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you. I have two. One, Dr. Krishnan want to respond. He will be responding earlier the question, and at the same time, I have a question for Dr. Karmveer, and again, Dr. Hasith want to intervene. So let's go, Dr. P. Krishnan, as you want to intervene. Dr. Krishnan, are you hearing me? Okay, then we'll deal. Dr.
Sorry, he
Karmveer,
was unmuted. Krishnan, please unmute yourself.
Hello, are you hearing me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I was coming down to the climate challenge. That's why I would like to by only there, and because of climate change, the resources are moving down. So the country which is specializing in a particular method is kind of facing a challenge of harnessing the resources by the kind of a method on which it has total kind of an expertise. So this is where actually the neighboring countries have a big role to play in terms of building their capacity, not only in understanding the climate change impact, preparing them, making them resilient in terms of planning for an alternative method, building their capacity, all that like so. It's a huge humanitarian kind of a pressure that the countries need to cooperate to avoid such major impact on the natural resources.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. P. Krishnan. And here is one question pointed to Dr. Karmveer Singh. India has increasingly utilized soft power in the Southeast Asia. What key aspects of India's soft power strategy are most effective strengthening its diplomatic relations with ASEAN countries? But again, if one slide, link from my side, as Asanga recently, while he was responding his question, was linking that India is peripheral. All the neighbors in India, while ASEAN as a construct well networked, where India is having a very well, strategic outputs of soft power handling. So, can you relate? Though the time is very short, but yes, you have. But just respond. What are the diplomatic relations and how it is gaining moment? If you have a dealing idea, then how it can be doable in the South Asia. Additional section from my side, Dr. Karmveer. Please.
Thank you, sir. Actually, we know that since 1990, the government of India has started, giving importance to cultural and other, soft power, ties with the Southeast Asian countries, especially. And the Look-East policy was initiated in 1990. The purpose was to strengthen economic cooperation with the countries of Southeast Asia. And but soft power, especially the cultural heritage, it play a very important role in creating an atmosphere. Actually, it facilitates the cordial relations, and it enhances the understanding and cooperation between the two countries or two regions, especially. So now India is using it's a Buddhist diplomacy, it's a Buddhist heritage in strengthening relations with the countries of Southeast Asia, promoting Buddhist tourism and developing Buddhist circuits like that. And it also very recently, last year, in this year, the relics of Buddha were sent to Thailand, and around 3 million people came to see the relics of Buddha to pay their homage. So gradually, India is focusing on its soft power, resources, and so in the long time, you will see the positive results also, I think.
Definitely. Thank you, Dr. Karmveer. A very short intervention from Hasith, as you want to link it with, how Sri Lanka's perspective related to, like India and China, balancing between. So can you wrap up within a minute, and then so the session will come to an end with, few remarks from Chair.
I just need to respond to Dr. Asanga, just 30 seconds.
Yeah.
He said that the Indians are occupying all the think tanks. I mean, Indians have not stopped anyone to occupy American think tank. There's a very good book, The Other 1% by Professor Devesh Kapoor. So we are the stakeholder in the American growth story. And you refer to the periphery. Russia is having war with the Ukraine. That is the periphery. China is having a problem with the periphery. We're not at war with any other states. So India's approach is, of course, to be the developmental stakeholder. It has nothing to do with the greatness something. The claim of greatness doesn't exclude anyone. It is a larger civilizational claim which includes the entire South Asia region.
Okay, but yeah, we'll if time permits, we'll discuss later. But now, Dr. Hasith, you want to respond?
Yeah,
Please.
thank you, Dr. Pradeep. I would like to add a comment on Sri Lanka between India and China. So as we can see from 2019, we are following the hedging foreign policy, giving exclusive economic privileges to the both countries. This scenario will continue. Actually, today's President Anukumar first visit to India, this scenario will continue for next 4-5 years until this administration. We will give more exclusive privileges to India. At the same time, we will offer more equal to the China in order to gain more economic benefits. I would like to add another point to Asanga's comment that he mentioned about the threat perception about Sri Lankan toward Indians. Yes, has been a very negative or some sort of negative from independence to present. But from 2022, after the Aragale, the political revolution or the economic crisis, Sri Lankan general public seems to have more positive attitude toward Indian political arena, especially how they intervene on economic crisis and providing the relief, and also how the role they played with our role they played in the regime smooth transition of regime change. So these things generated a more positive attitude toward India, public perception toward India than previously. So I think in the new administration have to figure it out how we can maintain the positive attitude or positive public perception toward India and China at the same time and maintaining the positive strategic equilibrium. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hasith. And with this, I think we have a very fruitful presentation and discussions regarding how Indo-Pacific concept and the idea is taking shape in South Asia. The pertinent questions you have responded, but though I mean the climate change and the cooperation needed areas are there, still we can continue talking. Thank you, Dr. Pramod. As I see this great initiative, as you have been conducting this mega events relating, connecting global scholars and think tanks and analysts. So this gives more energy to connecting all these people, and I'm sure that with this, what I want to say finally from my side, great power rivalry is shifting in the global context. Yes, it has remained in the 100 years, 200 years, 300 years, where the South Asia will be in next 10 to 20, 30 years, in the 50 years, with immense knowledge in its civilization and history. So with soft and hard power, how the smart power can be there, and the architecture of South Asia as expected 40, 50 years ago, and where the lacunas are there, which India as a the civilizational state is describing and posing the international position. So there are the big questions, and of course definitely the scholars will be pointing on that and digging on that. And again, thanks again, nice team, all the team, and I will stop here. And thank you for giving me this opportunity. Hope to see you in physical presence somewhere around the world, and if not, then in these kind of interactions. Thank you, everyone.